On this week's episode of the Crushing Debt podcast, the discontinued penny. So, welcome back to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt podcast. My name is Sean Yesner, owner and founder of Yesner Law, and I am joined remote again by your financial coach, George Corbello. How you doing, George?
I want to say in a somber moment, farewell to the almighty penny. That's what I'm a little sad, but definitely weird to kind of hear like right what was the phrase mom used to say like penny penny bring me luck because I'm the one who picked you up. Remember those? Like you find a penny on there. That
You
was the
see a penny, pick
phrase.
it up all day long. You'll have good luck.
There you go, my friend. There you go. So
I had a real estate investor client of mine once. I used to rent space from him, and I walked out there one day, and he's out in the parking lot, literally throwing pennies. And I said, dude, what are you doing? Like
yeah.
tossing out pennies like he's tossing out birdseed. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he said, you feed the parking lot will feed you.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
It was
All
a
right.
superstition.
Yeah, and that's
So
what it is, right? It's kind of the good luck charm. It depends on how you pick it up too, right? If the coin is flipped on its head, it's bad luck. If it's flipped on its tails, it's bad, whatever. Dude, there's a science to all of it. I'll send you a TikTok.
yeah, thanks. TikTok after last week's episode. So, a couple weeks ago, I took my son on his fifth grade field trip to Universal Studios to Islands of
Sure.
Adventure.
Nice.
And one of the funny things is they have those machines there where you throw in, whatever, a couple
Yeah.
dollars, and it presses down the penny and
Yeah.
puts the whatever logo on it. And so he bought with his own money, he stuck a $5 bill in the machine, and it gave him like eight of those souvenir pennies.
Nice.
I think he
Gets
realized what it was that he did because we were walking out of the park, and he said, Dad, those are real pennies. I said, yeah, dude, they're real pennies. He said, so if I go to buy something somewhere and I give them one of these pennies, I said, dude, I think once you've mangled it,
Yeah.
not only did you commit a felony, but I don't think those pennies can be used anymore.
Right. This
So
guy with the felony. Son, you want to avoid the situation. You don't want to put
I
yourself
think
out
it
there.
is. Hang on, I'm gonna Google it.
You're saying that those machines, those press machines that takes the pennies and puts them into another type of coin. If we deface it, it's actually a felony. Go figure. I got to report at Busch Gardens then. That's because they do that too.
Oh, okay. Here. Making a souvenir penny by flattening and imprinting a coin is generally not illegal. However, a federal
Generally,
statute in the Criminal Code of the United States makes it illegal to fraudulently alter, deface, mutilate, impair, diminish, falsify, scale, or lighten any U.S. coin. So,
mm,
yeah,
they got away with it.
yeah. I mean, I guess mutilate, impair, diminish, falsify.
Right.
So if my son then tried to use those pennies to buy something with,
Then he'd be in trouble.
that might be illegal.
Yeah, there you
But
go.
just making a souvenir, I guess, in and of itself is not illegal. But I think we are saying goodbye to our friend the penny.
I think it's happening. They're phasing it out for some. Well, I mean, we know why. There's reasons for the purpose, but yeah, I didn't think this day would come. I mean, you talk about uh, money itself, and Abe Lincoln on the penny. I mean, that's the good old Abe.
Yeah,
So
honest
that
Abe.
that seems to be on its way out. So for me, it's like, what's the impact? What do we have to do as consumers and our budgets and how we manage money itself with the phase out of the penny? What does that mean for us?
Yeah. So I think it really only matters for people that use cash. I think if
I
you,
think so too.
electronic, payments, then I don't think it's really going to make a difference.
Yeah, but well, why are we here though? Why are we so for me,
Well,
like I imagine there's costs associated with, making the penny. So I'm assuming that that's one of the reasons why they're kind of phasing this out.
yeah, I mean, let's go back. Let's take a step back here. So, President Trump has basically instructed the Treasury Secretary to stop producing new pennies. So, after the Treasury Department eliminates the last of its inventory of blank pennies,
Right.
pennies will stop being produced in the United States. Now, it's said that the move will save the government $56 million a year in
Wow.
reduced material costs.
Okay.
So it takes 56 million. I wonder how many pennies are produced. It takes $56 million to produce how many pennies? Let's
Well,
see.
think about it like this. So to make 1 cent, it takes around 2.1 cents. So it's basically 50% or 100, yeah, 100% more, right? One is two, the girl math. But the 2%, it definitely, it costs more money to make the penny. So 50, so let's assume 56 million, 26 million of, pennies. Basically half of that is around that.
Yeah. So in 2024, approximately 3.2 billion pennies were produced
Wow.
at a cost of, what did I say? $56 million to produce 3.2 billion pennies.
Oh, that's again, the math seems off then, but that's okay. So it's still, we know it's a lot. Let's put
It's
it
a
like
lot.
that for sure.
It's
Okay.
a lot. So, I mean, I guess by doing this, there's clearly going to be a cost savings. Plus, the other thing that kind of occurred to me is how many pennies are still in circulation. I don't
Correct.
I don't think the Trump administration has said to collect pennies that are
Yeah, what
in.
do we do? What do we do with the pennies? So so we're not producing anymore, but what do we do with the pennies that are in circulation at this point? That's the question that hasn't been really flushed out. We're still going to collect. I'm assuming, companies, businesses can still collect the money, and still be able to collect the penny. But when do we get to a point where, we're just reusing the currency itself or phasing it out altogether
Yeah.
from a business standpoint?
And I don't think this is a conversation about phasing out the penny. So there
Yeah.
will still be pennies in circulation, but I think, like most people, I basically just collect pennies
Yep.
till I have enough to roll, 50 cents worth. And then I turn that in for cash, however often I turn it in for cash. My kids still collect change. I still collect change. I've got a a liquor bottle, the little canvas bag that holds, like, the, oh, what am I thinking? The bourbon, the Maker's, not Maker's Mark, but whatever. I think it's a rum.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? A little bag that the alcohol comes in. I use it to store all my loose change. So I'll
Sure.
go through a drive-through and I'll get change back, and I'll put it in there, and I don't know how much I've got in there. I've got a couple on my desk
Yeah.
that's filled with quarters and dimes and pennies and nickels. And so if I go to the gas station across the street in the middle of the day to get myself a soda, I'll bring change with me and I'll buy it with change. So, but I don't think the articles that I've seen are that the penny is going away. It's just that new pennies are not going to be produced.
And again, eventually, though, when we talk about, I mean, there's probably a lot in circulation. There's probably a lot of pennies that are out there right now. But what ends up happening, though, when we say, like, okay, because right now a lot of talk is kind of like, well, 9.99, right? Or, like the price points. If it's in between a five and a 10, so five, and the nickel kind of prices itself. Are
Right.
we going to start seeing, and I don't think we'll see it right away, but over the next few years, will we see where, a lot of the prices really get, with taxes and everything like that, get adding up to specifically like, 5.95 or $6 even, that kind of thing as well. Or if the price ends up being 5.98, do we round up? Do we round down? So that's the
Well,
eventual. I think that's the event, because I don't think it's a problem on the digital side. You
no,
don't
it's
see it
not.
on the digital side, not a big issue. I think there may be a big push to go to digital where you can have that, you don't have to worry about the pennies and cents. It's just a number. But when we
Right.
talk about cash, that's where I feel like that's where you're going to still have the most impact.
Well, and
When it comes to
I
that.
think it's going to be something like, if you pay cash, we got to round up to, four
Right.
dollars and 55 cents.
Sure.
But if you buy, ACH, electronic debit card, credit card, whatever, it'll still be $4.53.
Right.
So it'll start to get a little bit more expensive to use cash if it ends in, in something other than a zero or a five in terms of the cents.
Yeah. I mean, again, as a digital user, people who use credit cards, debit cards, cards themselves, virtual cards, things like that, doesn't matter. Like a cashless, society, there's a lot of places that are cashless right now that the impact of the penny going away doesn't matter because again, it's all digits, it's all numbers.
Right.
Getting tips though, your collection jars, charities that, coin charities that they kind of rely on people putting coins into a particular, bucket or something like that. That could have that's where I could see some of the impact. Not immediate. This is again what happens to the penny? What happens to, when we talk about society and consumerism itself, how does that change? When we talk about, with a penny itself not being available as frequent. Because again, I think a lot of the new pennies we have are minted, right? They're coming in from the bank. They're circulated from the Treasury. So if we stop doing that over the next few years, we're going to have to rely on people who have pennies in their garage, in their
Right.
buckets, in there to continue the circulation.
Right. Although what it could also mean for people that collect out there, pennies may actually start to go up in value
Yeah.
as they become more rare, as they get phased out. They may actually go up in value and be worth more than a penny.
I definitely can see that. So you could tell a lot of those collector items. There's a few collector pennies worth 1,000 right now, back from like your 1800s and things like that. So definitely, you can appreciate some of those older coins. Do you remember? I mean, they phased out even like the is it the $2 coin? $1, the $1 coin, like even so,
Yeah.
like there's a few like the $1. I remember the $2 bill
$2
is phased
bills are
out.
phased out.
So that becomes a collector's item depending on year and make on that too. They had the $1 coin, the old silver. It was an old silver type or nickel
Yeah.
dollar. I remember those as well. My mom had a few of those in her piggy bank. It's not the first time where we phased out certain coins, but it is kind of nostalgic in the sense of like, the penny, with the rounding up and getting change. I mean, maybe it's a good thing where we're not having so much change in our pocket. We talk about, I hate getting like 4 pennies.
Yeah.
Like damn, can you just take the, you have it, you take it, that kind of thing.
Well, and something else interesting. I'm reading this article. The Canadian penny was discontinued in
Yeah.
2012. Australia and New
Yep.
Zealand stopped producing their lowest denomination coins decades ago. So we're not the first ones to get rid
No.
of the penny.
No,
And
and I think a lot of them, it's a cost savings. And again, these materials are getting harder to find. Governments are all looking for ways to cut costs, save money, and they just look at the penny as just another opportunity. With all the cuts in government that they're trying to do, this one kind of makes sense.
yeah,
Pun, no pun intended. But
makes sense. So, here's the interesting thing is in the articles that I'm seeing about the penny going away, it talks about how retailers are going to price things. And it used to be that pricing at 99 cents was enticing to somebody because if something,
Right,
$5.99, your girl math says it's not $6. So you're
right.
down to
It's
$5.
$5. Yeah,
But what I think nobody is really considering is there's a sales tax on top of. So if something's 99 cents, let's say something is exactly 99 cents. At 7% sales tax, it's actually going to cost you $1.06 or $1.07.
yeah,
So I wonder if this is going to cause pricing to shift the other way so that, if I know if I don't if I want whatever I buy to end in a 5 or a 0 after taxes, then I'm going to have to divide by 1.07 to get, whatever price so that when taxes are added, it'll be an even number or
correct.
it'll be a 0 or a 5. Either that or the different departments of revenue, the different, sales tax collections, those are going to have to give retailers some guidance on how to price things. Although, again, I know that I had to register for sales tax when I started selling my book because if anybody buys the book, I got to pay sales tax on the sale of the book. And that is all electronic with the Department of Revenue. So I don't know that it necessarily even matters.
Yeah. See, I think guidance when it comes to sales tax is probably going to be there for businesses. Do they round up? Especially when you, again, I think for them it's paying, paying by cash. Cashless, no big deal if you're cashless, and majority of your payments are collected via card, not a big deal. I don't think there's any change, but definitely they'll have to consider like what if, if I'm doing cash, is there gonna be a different price point as part of that? Or is it going to be legal? Think about it like it's like, oh, well, it was 5.98, from a business standpoint, could they just say, $6 if it's cash? Or will they have to? And for me, I think it's a PR act, opportunity if you think about it, to kind of like, well, 5.98, we're going to give you 5.95. It's just one of those kind of things where giving the person the thought of saving. So because I guarantee if you round up by 2 cents, they're gonna be like, what? But if you round down by three, it's like what? Like it's going to
Right.
be either way. So it's going to be interesting how businesses will have to adapt to some of these changes. Again, we're still far away from that, but it is something that we start thinking about.
Well, and to our earlier point, a 2022 Federal Reserve report found that $14 billion, about 60% of actively circulating coins, are in jars and piggy banks.
Jeez, wow,
Essentially, we have enough coins, but they're not flowing through our
that's
economy,
what it is.
creating
Yeah,
unnecessary pressure to mint new ones despite adequate existing supply.
yeah. So it's just how do we then motivate folks to use what's in the jar? And I get it. Like some of us collect the coins, so that's one way. So I get that. But then how do we get you're right, it's like, is it time to empty out the jar and go collect the cash? Is that the call for? Because I think if people don't use these pennies enough, I think that's what puts us in that, from a business standpoint, you don't have enough to be able to give change if it does come up. So yeah, it's interesting stuff.
I saw a story online, so it must be true. Um, and I don't know. I think it was an HOA fine. It was some kind of fine,
Mm,
and I think the fine was something like, whatever, $100 or $50 or
sure, sure.
$500. It was something relatively small, and the person who was fined paid in pennies.
Oh yes, I think it was a DMV. I think it was
Yeah,
a DMV ticket or something like that. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it ended up costing them like a couple $1,000s in man hours to
To
count,
count.
a couple $100 in coins.
Yep.
I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
That could be what we start doing with our pennies is start paying all of our fines and DMV fees and
Start
all,
screw.
start paying them all in pennies.
Start making people really upset. Sir, we don't take you take cash. They're like, well, pennies are cash, my friend. Yeah, that's one way to definitely piss people off. That's I could see that for sure. Do you see a black market for pennies now? Do you think there's going to be a black market? Do we think?
I think there's going to be a black market for, I can't imagine there being a black market for pennies. Quarters, maybe, but not pennies.
Oh my goodness. So, and the other thing that I think about, you're right, these antique, like, is your penny jar going to be like this antique now? Like, like who needs a penny jar and saving all those I think that's what's gotten us into trouble is everybody has a penny jar in their
And
house. Like, guys, use the money. Go take the money and go buy yourself some bubble gum.
there's a joke at the end of this article. The penny loafer is going to become the dime loafer.
Ah, there you go. The nickel. Do you know the nickel though costs more money to make? I think it's even three times more expensive to make a nickel than it is to make a penny. I
I
think
saw
that.
that. It's let's see. The nickel is even more expensive to make, costs 13
Yeah,
7/8 cents to make each 5-cent coin. It costs 5.76 cents to make a 10-cent dime and
there you go.
14.68 cents to make a 25-cent quarter.
Yeah,
Huh.
I think I know what the next one's coming.
It was
Got
funny though, teaching my kids math when they, Dad, how much is a quarter? It's a quarter of a dollar.
No, technically it's 14 cents.
Yeah. I guess technically it's 14.68 cents.
Oh my goodness. Well, for me, I'm looking, we obviously can laugh at it. It's breaking news. This is definitely fresh off the presses when it comes to like the big change from a money standpoint. But I think you and I are in the same boat. I think we are moving to such a digital kind of landscape. cashless is a lot more prevalent out there when it comes to the businesses. I feel like this is a blip. I think this is going to be something that people are aware of, but I don't feel like it's going to be such an impact when it comes to, how a lot of the society works today. But I still see any of the businesses that still heavily relies on tips and cash, charities when it comes to coin drives. They do a lot of coin drives that I can see where we can see some impact. But I think a lot of those will start adjusting. We all adjust. We all make those kind of changes itself when it comes to these types of major changes that the government has on us. So I think for us in the long run, not a big deal. We'll give a salute to Abe and say thank you for your service, my friend. We appreciate what the penny has brought. I got a few pennies that I feel like hopefully in the future they'll be worth more than 3 cents. But other than that, I think for me it's kind of like we get it. Cost savings, things we want to do, but I think in the long run, not a big deal. I think it's something that we'll just kind of remember it as a blip.
I think that I
I
agree.
hope. I hope.
Yeah, I hope it'll just end up being a blip.
It's
But
just
I guess
spare change, my friend. It's
yeah.
gonna just be spare change in our history.
So nickel for your thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. Too expensive there. Too expensive, man.
I can't believe there will probably be a day where our grandkids will say, "What's a penny?"
Yeah. Yeah. It's coming.
It's
It's
coming.
coming back. Daddy, Papa, back in your day, what was this brown coin? This what was it? This thing they called a penny. Oh, back.
Although I was watching oh, what's the movie about how Ray Kroc founded McDonald's? What movie I'm talking about, stars Michael Keaton.
Oh, I know what you're mixed something, but yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes.
So I guess one of the first times he ever went to a McDonald's and ordered food, it was a cheeseburger, fry, or a hamburger, fries, and a soft drink,
Sure.
35 cents.
Hmm.
Now I
Hmm.
don't know if I would assume that's historically accurate. I wasn't.
Well, back in the day, yeah. I mean, you're talking McDonald's is, 40s. It's
Yeah.
been around for a while.
Well,
So,
now I went this morning on my way
uh-oh.
into the office and I got two egg McMuffins for $9.14. And I actually had the 4 pennies in my car.
Not 35 cents?
Not 35 cents,
Oh boy,
$9
not
and
even
14
close.
cents
$9.
for two egg McMuffins.
Wow.
Those are the
Okay.
best tasting egg McMuffins ever.
They better be.
I savored every bite.
They were worth it. Okay, so at least you enjoyed the meal, but holy moly. Yeah, eating out is definitely it's definitely expensive out there, people. Save your pennies.
Save your pennies. Although, if you want to donate your pennies,
I
we
would
can
agree.
take them. You can donate them through patreon.com/crushing debt. Any pennies that we earn from patreon.com, we will save as collector's items
Digitally.
digitally. No, I think digitally you can give us whatever denomination you want.
Yes,
Again,
please.
it's patreon.com/crushing debt. We also have to give a shout out to our friend Sam Cohen with Attorneys First Insurance. If you're an attorney or title company, you need malpractice coverage, it's sam at attorneysfirst.com. Other than that, I think I'm going to go home and start rolling some coins.
Yes, nice. See where those pennies, let's donate those pennies, get them back in circulation. I think it's a great idea. Let's get them back in circulation. I can go get a bazooka. Remember the bazooka gum? You could,
Yeah,
five
like
cents
five
back in the.
cents or
I
something.
think they're like $3 now, but five. They used to be good deal back in the day. Anyway, I think I've done enough spare change jokes, and penny for your thoughts jokes. So I think we're good. I think we're good there, Sean.
I agree. I do think we're good. We've got a couple of interviews coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Nice.
And I think that'll do it for this week's episode. I hope that you have more pennies at the end of the month than month at the end of the pennies. And we will talk to you in next week's episode of the podcast.